Hello YouTube, I'm Dakota from Bowtied Media, and today we have another installment of This Week in EDM, where we go over songs that came out this week in EDM. We've got about just under 30 songs, and before we hop into it, just a reminder that this is just my opinion. Do not take them as gospel truth, so let's hop into it. Starting us off in the bad category is Dustycloud with Get Wasted, a hyper-aggressive tech house track that is just very much in your face for 4.5 minutes straight, and I'm just not all feeling it. Honestly, I didn't really feel the length was justified, especially after it practically gives us like a minute-long outro with this ever slightest synth rise. I just didn't really care for it. We got Tiësto and Lucas and Steve with Free Your Mind, a main stage track with a big beat and huge energy, only to have it completely gutted with the drops. That minimalistic lead synth it just feels so flat and doesn't sound great either. And these kind of main stage tracks live and die by those 30-second drops, and this one died for me. Then moving into the meh category, we've got Fred Again featuring Angie McMahon with Light Dark Light. This track just feels incomplete. There was very evidently a clear vision for what this track was going to be, but Fred just found nothing to really surround that vision. It's got a mixture of quartet-sounding IDM with all the atmospheric vibes of a classic Fred Again track. It just didn't all that land. Then we got 22 Bullets and Martin Jensen with Pharmacy, a quick and dirty bass house track that leans into tech house, but regardless is specifically designed for a club setting. I didn't really hate this track, but just found the lyricism a little odd. Just hearing the word ibuprofen over and over again, it was just weird for me. Then we got RetroVision, Can You Feel It? A quick hit of commanding bass / electro house that teeters into some future house a little bit, but is otherwise a serviceable high energy song. Then we got Luci with Comfortable. A pleasant new track from Luci that's fairly steady and straightforward. It's got a bit more of a pop rock feel to it and doesn't really feel super EDM-y explicitly, but it's a very approachable track that will be ripe for a ton of remixes, which I'm sure will come in the future. Then we got Don Diablo and MK featuring Gaby Gerlis with Next to Me. Really don't mind this track, as it is a very kind of light-hearted, easily danceable beat without the mixing sounding too egregiously bad, but this is a safe track from Don Diablo that his crowd will love, and outsiders will typically think this is pretty so-so, as do I. Then we got William Black with Different Shit. William Black did indeed wake up on some different shit. And with this new, heavily more abrasive, not at all melodic dubstep song. Even throwing in some Rastafarian vocals to really nail home that this is different from the usual William Black we've heard. But in the end, I thought it was fine, fairly well executed from William's perspective, but I think the song just isn't really all that impressive holistically. Then we got Tokyo Machine with Cheat Codes, a very natural Tokyo Machine NCS and Geometry Dash collaboration. But in the end, this was kind of a fine Tokyo Machine track that feels like he used a bunch of borrowed ideas from his tracks prior. For Tokyo standards, it's pretty whatever. Then we're moving into the good category with helloworld featuring Son Holo, Figure This Out. A pretty underwhelming track from helloworld, and I know he's been on this kick of more laid-back electronica tunes, but this just kind of feels like an interlude track more than anything, which isn't a bad thing, but just doesn't quite feel like a big single I would have expected from helloworld at this point. Then we got Fairlane, Afinity, and Know Me with Heart Could Break. This is in the upper echelon of melodic dubstep quality, leaning more aggressive in the front half and playing things more smooth in the back. I still find it quite formulaic with a song structure that we've heard time and time again, just with different paint put on top of it. So other than that, I think it's not too bad. Then we got Zeds featuring Minke with Heartbeat, a vintage aesthetic and tone with this new track that's also intentionally mixed in a bit of a flatter way to give off the impression that this thing sounds like it's coming from the 80s or 70s or something like that. It's a bit of a vibe, but overall fairly underwhelming by Zeds standards. We got Jessica Audiffred featuring Chae with Rave On. A couple album teasers are out, and I'm all for this kind of album teaser style EP not quite thing release. But this track in particular feels like Jessica in tip-top form, finding her own style and doubling down on it with its tone and atmosphere. Doesn't really feel super out there and unique in the grand scheme of things, but it does still definitely sound like Jessica Audiffred. Then we got the Grafix remix of Feed Me's One Click Headshot. A very intense remix within a compilation of One Click Headshot remixes, but this one really stood out to me as Grafix brings out his signature intense drum and bass production with nasty leads and a dense production all throughout. Then we got Aeon Mode with Stop Go, one of the heaviest Aeon Mode tracks I think we've gotten in a pretty long time, and I'm here for it. Easily danceable drum and bass with an earworm of a hook. The melody even has these kind of dog barking like synths that just crush. Then we got Marshmello and Space Laces with Rave Repeater. Not as strong as Conquer was, in my opinion, but I still very much like the vibe. And on paper, yeah, again, this is a pretty strange collab, but it's another quick one, as I think we definitely could have used a whole third movement instead of these like kind of weird extended outro, making the song only like just over 2 minutes. But yeah, the song in itself is hype, brings a ton of energy, and they clearly had a blast making it. Then we got Mr. FijiWiji with Everybody from the new All My Love album. A new FijiWiji project for me is always a delight. This latest round of singles being kind of released throughout the year found their way onto this sort of compilation style album, and I think it's holistically a good picture of Fiji's sound in 2024, with this latest track being another garage banger. Then we got Camoufly and Dazegxd with Nothing Left to Say. A new double-sided single from these two, as this track in particular is a more kind of upbeat style and tone, but both of the tracks are equally as smooth in its production and relaxing in its atmosphere. Then we got the ShockOne remix of Montel 2099 featuring Sam Bruno's Go. This song is definitely a love it or hate it, as it will live and die by your thoughts on that individual lead synth. It's loud, maybe a little too hot in the mix, but for me, I really loved it. It's a sound that's not really like anything I've heard before, as it kind of uses this kind of lead synth in a way that I haven't heard ShockOne do anything really like this at all, and still keeps the sound of the original pretty intact. And so, for me, this is a song and a remix I really want to come back to over and over again. Then we got Topi with Wide Open. As rigid as Topi gets, well, this is that. I still have a love-hate kind of relationship with Topi, where I can appreciate the sound design and uniqueness that he brings to each new track, but they're just so harsh, and to me, that's not a great for me to constantly be listening to. But this is a great balance of that intense sound design and more palatable production elements, with vocals that really bring the whole thing together. Then we got Milkblood with Sync 162 or Moonlight. Milkblood going full dance pop with this latest track, which has always been a career trajectory for them since day one. But we'll see how far this gets commercially. But yeah, as a sounding track, this sounds pretty great. It's got a good hook to it. It's really palatable. It's really commercial friendly. And it's one that I find really easy to play in large settings with family or friends. Then we got Guy Arthur and Jung Hyun with Do My Thing. I'm a sucker for Guy Arthur bass house, and I'm not afraid to admit it. The bass line is punchy, the melody is pounding. It's just a 3-minute banger of top-tier bass house production. Then we got Skybreak with the Lightbringer VIP, a more intense, rigid, less melodic take on the track that brought Skybreak to Monstercat in the first place. This is one of those remixes that changes just enough to feel like it's its own track, but also very much sounds like it's original, the way I think VIPs should be, and this one was crafted quite well. And we got Spaghetti with Diesel from the new Leftovers LP. Spaghetti is cooking, even with his leftovers. I really love the idea that this is just a kind of full album of tracks that never fit anywhere on their own, and finally giving them a chance to shine as they rightfully deserve to. But this track in particular has a bit of like kind of an Arabic tinge to it, while still residing right in that heavy abrasive dubstep, bro step sound. He was very much unafraid to go after something wild, and it worked wonders, and I think this is the best song from the album. Then we got Armin van Buuren and Natalie Giora with Viva la Opera. This feels like an instant classic type of track with a big producer in Armin van Buuren and a grand operatic aesthetic to the whole thing. Natalie's singing is fantastic, and I think Armin supports her vocals with brilliant production in his own right. And we've got Conro with the Therapy VIP. I love when artists like Conro have a mega hit in Therapy, a track like Therapy, that's more commercial leaning, and then turn the track on a dime for a more explicitly EDM stylized VIP. And this is that to a T. This is now a dense, deep house production, and it's a return to Conro's sound that we haven't really heard in a while, and man, I'm already going nuts for the song. Then we got Space Yeti with Party. I definitely assumed this was going to be a little bit more of a Christmassy song, as it's on this kind of Christmas compilation, but alas, it was not. And that's totally fine with me, because this track smacks pretty hard. A modern trap sound throughout with a kind of pseudo-hardstyle midsection that brings the house down. Honestly, this is my favorite Space Yeti track to date. And finally, in the standout category is Boombox Cartel, Dillon Francis, and Nevve featuring Your Boy with Heartbreak. After a weird year for both Boombox Cartel and Dillon Francis, this might just be either of their best songs of the year. Actually, I think it very much is. It's a more laid-back bass house track with hints of garage here and there, but my goodness, I'm in love with this thing. I don't really know how to describe it, but like 10 years ago, this would have been like one of my all-time favorite songs. Even today, I think it's fantastic. But let me know what you guys think of any and all songs in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these songs or anything else that came out this week. But other than that, I'm Dakota from Bowtied Media, and I'll see you guys in another video.